everybody, and welcome to the GT Challenge Series here for Season 4. Well, it's all changed in the GT Pro Series with its move to GT cars for this season. It is back to our trusty GT3s for GT Challenge Series once again. We've got some familiar faces as well, some massive names in GT Challenge this season. We're very much looking forward to bringing it to you. We've got a 6-race calendar. It takes us across the globe, from America back to Italy and Europe, all across Europe. And it's a good selection of tracks. Some iconic ones in there, but also some little bit strange ones as well, which is going to be very, very fun indeed. Taking you through the entire season, it's going to be me, Ewan O'Leary, alongside Paul Buckley for the 6th race season. We're very much looking forward to bringing it to you. Good afternoon, Paul. It's a new season of GT Challenge, as I mentioned, and we've got some big names on the grid. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're right. It's there's plenty to look forward to, and if GT Pro on Monday is anything to go by, we're going to have some brilliant racing coming up over the next couple of hours or so. And yeah, big names. Of course, 2-time champion from the GT Pro, Erhan Yuyovski, dropped down into GT Challenge for this season, so he'll be definitely one to keep an eye out for. Of course, Turkka Häkkinen and Jimmy Nisula dropping down with him as well as all of the up-and-coming stars as well. Loads of names rising through. And just so much talent already on the grid, looking and hungry to get into GT Pro.
Yeah, absolutely. Those, as you mentioned, those three are going to be ones that we're particularly looking out for. Turkka Häkkinen, of course, fastest in pre-qualifying as well, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But as we speak right now, qualifying has just commenced, literally just now. We're here at the Monza circuit, as you can see. We've got to go to Sebring, Lime Rock Park, Loch Drummond, Spa, Francorchamps and Indianapolis, with the little asterisk next to round 4 because we're running on a Thursday that day. So watch out for that. But anyway, it's a selection of iconic circuits, but there's a couple of odd ones in the middle with Lime Rock and Loch Drummond there. Not really sure how they're going to go. And we're not sure how Turn 1's going to go here either, because we know what troubles it can cause, as you mentioned, from Monday. A little bit of a catastrophe. Let's hope that we don't see anything like that here tonight, but you never know. It is indeed possible. In terms of the format and the kind of run through that we have here today, it's a 15-minute qualifying session which has just got underway, as I mentioned. We've got a 15-minute sprint race straight after that, which is set by the qualifying, and then we've got a 45-minute main race, which is the real point of intrigue for me. It's the top 10 reversed for starters. That's going to be good, but also we've got a mandatory pit stop this year, or this season should I say. That is something that we haven't seen in GT Pro or Challenge so far.
Yeah, it's going to throw that extra little bit of tactics into the mix, sort of with all the fuel loads and everything going into the race. Do you want to try and maybe run longer and be a bit lighter and just have a quick splash and dash towards the end? Do you want to try and balance it out? It's very intriguing to see how that's going to play out across not just this race, of course, but the whole season, and whether they learn something perhaps in Monza that they can then take forwards and see drivers changing strategies throughout the season as well.
As we see on the right hand side of the screen as well, the prize money, which is a little note that we've been passed in the last few hours about GT Pro prize money being deducted if they receive penalties. So you might find yourself with a nice little bit of money as well in GT Challenge because of it all filtering down. But as it says here, we've got 13 different GT3 manufacturers to choose from. In terms of qualifying in the top 30, which is what you need to get into the split we're broadcasting right here, you really need to be in an Audi, a McLaren, a Bentley or a Porsche. You're not likely to see any of the others in Split 1 throughout this season. Audi seems to be the most popular. It also seems to be the fastest, at least at Monza. The top 3 are Audis, and they are Turkka Häkkinen, Christian Michael and Erhan Yuyovski. 3 very, very useful drivers indeed, shall we say. And they'll all be striving for GT Pro in Season 5. At the end of this season, the top 5 drivers from GT Challenge will be promoted into the GT Pro season straight away without any arguments at all. And then if you finish in the position 6 to 10, you'll be in the relegation race, or whatever format it takes on this season. Will likely to be similar in previous seasons. It means that you have to fight for your seat, but still the opportunity to get into GT Pro is going to be very appetising for these guys. There's no doubt about that. And the bottom 10 from GT Pro will be in danger of being relegated as you can see there. In terms of the splits for GT Challenge alone, so this doesn't interfere with GT Pro, but in GT Challenge it's kind of a rolling cast of different suspects we might see throughout the season. The previous 2 races are kind of determine the splits for the one that we're going to have, but obviously that only comes into effect from round 3 onwards, because we won't have had 2 rounds by the time we've done rounds 1 and 2, if you see what I mean. So we'll have to wait a little bit for that. But there's 251 qualifiers, or at least those who set a time, 251 of them. Many splits up and down rFactor 2 at the moment, and it's open to anybody. If you get your times in qualifying, and maybe for season 5 you quite like the look of GT Challenge, you want to have a go yourself, well, you can do. Because it's open to anybody, and so you can have a go and try and get yourself into GT Pro if you wish, of course. So yeah, there we go. We've got 11 GT Challenge Series debuts for those inside the top 20. This is qualifying we're seeing now, but in pre-qualifying we had more than half of the top 20 making their GT Challenge debut. That's very interesting to me, because they've. I would have thought you'd need a bit of experience, maybe, in GT3 cars, this kind of format of racing, but apparently not. So a lot of the newcomers have done very well straight off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely, and whether that could be down to just raw talent behind the wheel, I'm sure for a lot of them it probably is, but also just painstaking hours learning the cars, learning how they handle, and going out and setting a time and finding yourself up here. Like I know in the past I've attempted to set a few laps just to try and compare myself, and been miles off the pace, but I'm sure with a bit of time I could get a bit closer. And that is the case for a lot of these guys. There's a lot of dedication, a lot of graft, and a lot of grinding to get those last few tenths of a second out of the car and make your way into these races like we're seeing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Nello Pastorino is on your screen right now. We're just on board with him with 9 minutes to go in the qualifying session. He came 22nd in pre-qualifying, but don't let that fool you. It was only half a second off of first place Turkka Häkkinen. So, all of these guys are very, very good indeed. Just that Pastorino was a couple of tenths shy of those up front, but he's coming towards the Parabolica right now, and this is all for satellite racing, of course. We'll see where it puts him, down in 29th at the moment, which is not really where the guys who have set times are. He's likely to be up towards the top 15 at the very least. We should see him pop up on the left-hand side of our screens in a few moments' time. It doesn't actually look like that's been the case. It maybe have a little bit of a poor lap on that occasion. 24th for him over the line. But it's Turkka Häkkinen who's currently leading this qualifying session. Jimi Nisula is in second. Christian Mikel is in third, ahead of Nick de Silva in fourth. And then we go down the rest of the drivers on the left-hand side, as you can see, reeling off the names right now. But yeah, Turkka Häkkinen showing that his pre-qualifying pace wasn't a fluke, and obviously we knew that before, but he's just proving it to us. It's an odd sensation going back to a circuit that you've pre-qualified on, I guess. But we can take a lot from these pre-qualifying times, and Häkkinen's showing, as I mentioned, that it wasn't a fluke, exactly, the fact that he got the fastest time. He has gone 4 tenths quicker than this, mind you, but still, very, very good driver indeed, as we're seeing.
Absolutely, and I was going to say, it's like our broadcast director Ruben read my mind. I was going to say Nijovski in what was somewhat surprising 11th place, but looking at the splits coming up, he may be about to pip Häkkinen if the third sector is the same as the first two. Purple in the first and second sectors, of course. Best for the session so far, but as the track rubbers in, those times are going to fall. And yeah, as you say, another Audi coming through strong in qualifying. And see, as Nijovski crosses the line, he does indeed go fastest of all so far. It was only green, so only a personal best in the third sector, but still just enough to be a tenth faster than Turkka Häkkinen is.
Absolutely, we're seeing the end of these kind of runs coming through here, because Mattia Krupi has also gone a little bit quicker there, and he is into third place, which is a great improvement on where he was in pre-qualifying at 12th position. As over the line comes David Koloksai, FSR Academy champion, about to be not reigning champion anymore because that season's about to finish, but either way, he's very quick indeed. Here's Cam Roger, organiser of FSR, actually. That was a very nice link for Burst Esport, but 25th. You messaging me earlier a little bit about how he was struggling for pace ever so slightly. Some of these guys are a little bit quicker than he can go, I'm afraid. So, yeah, it's an interesting point. But what he did mention, he gave us some very, very useful information, I would say, because he said how the Audi is very, very good in qualifying. However, it might not be quite as good in the race, and the McLaren might just edge it. So we're going to have to watch to see how this race evolves, especially the 45-minute race, the second race. The McLaren could well finish, bottom end of the top 10 for the first race if it's a bit of more of a sprint affair. But, in a longer race, starting at the front, it could really go well there.
Absolutely. It just makes this qualifying session even more important for those that are in the McLaren. If you can nab yourself a good grid position, and the McLaren does prove to be faster in a race scenario than just trying to set hot laps in qualifying, then you're in a brilliant position to carry that through and sort of take your way through the race. But then they've also got to bear in mind that the top 10 from the first sprint race are going to be reversed. Do they want to gamble a little bit on that? And will we see any drivers sort of, well, I don't want to say settling for finishing the lower end of the top 10, obviously, because there are still points available. But if they're coming towards the end of the race, are they just going to settle down, sort of think, okay, this will put me towards the front and I've got the more race pace in my car for the second race, and use that to their advantage in the full-length race at the end? It'll be interesting to see that come along as we swap over to Paul Auguslana in the Bentley in P18 at the moment, but going pretty quickly there, as you can see. Purple sector through sector 1 as we're coming down towards Ascari and the end of sector 2. We'll see how this lap is unfolding. Personal best, but not best overall. Still mighty fast at the moment for Paul Auguslana there. And down towards the Parabolica we go to see just how quick this time is. Well, of course, Paul Auguslana was 30th in pre-qualifying, if my memory serves me correctly, so we'll be looking to improve on that. Already is, of course, sitting in 18th and 17th now even. And only looking like he's going to be moving higher up.
Let's see. As he goes over the line right now for Volante, it's going to be 16th. So yeah, just edges himself up very, very close in the midfield here. He made it into split 1 by what I would call 28 thousandths of a second, so it was pretty close. As Yimi Nisler comes over the line for 6th place, just behind 4 Nigel Velitz cars, which is quite interesting. Johan Kurjan coming towards the line as well for TX3 in the Bentley. But yeah, that's worth noting really about these teams. It's not, there's no team championship or anything like that. But the fact that there are 4 Nigel Velitz cars up there has got to be a help. It's always helpful to have teammates around you for this one. We've got Hakkinen, Mikkel, McDuff and De Stout all up there in the top 5 for Nigel Velitz. They were pretty strong in pre-qualifying actually, but they're showing themselves to be even stronger in the actual qualifying session here. And yeah, very much looking forward to seeing how they get on, because they can obviously help each other. It just get inside the top 5. It's not really about winning this championship for GT Challenge. Obviously they'd like to, and it would be nice to do that. However, if they could get at least half of their drivers into GT Pro next season, that would be a huge success for Nigel Velitz.
Absolutely, and having those drivers being able to be this close together in pace as well, it only means they can share setup and advice for each track they go to, and it's sort of like a collective improvement, as that's a big drift around the Parabolica for Cameron Roger. It looks stylish. It's not particularly the fastest way to get yourself around there, and but yeah, it's sharing the setup, sharing knowledge of the car and so on and so forth only improves every single member of that team. So, and yeah, I feel like that's sort of an example of that coming to fruition, seeing all 4 of those Nigel Velitz cars, 2, 3, 4 and 5 at the moment. And yeah, if they do manage to make their way into GT Pro, they can just carry that momentum with them, carry all of the information they can share, work together and really take the fight to those that are currently in GT Pro.
Hanyoski's just gone a little bit quicker, by the way. A 44.8 means that he's over 2 temps now in front of Turkka Hakkinen in the front of this qualifying session. This is Diego Silva, or it was anyway. Let's have a look at Cameron Roger again. Coming through the parabolica, we mentioned the slide on the way through. We'll see. Oh, he was quite busy on the way in and midway through the course, and on the exit as well. He had his hands full there, trying to get through out the final corner. Obviously, he commentates for rFactor 2 live quite often, so we like to kind of take the mic just a little bit, but it's all friendly. As Diego Silva goes over the line in 9th position, he may well stay there for the rest of this one. Here's Turkka Häkkinen. He is improving, but I don't think it's going to be enough for pole position unless he pulls something really out the bag here quite late on. Which I somewhat doubt, even though he's a very good driver, as we know. I don't think he's quite this good, so we'll wait and see if he's had a blinding final sector, and he's not a bad one, but it was a little bit slower than before, and he slightly improves, but not to the extent that he needed to. Now, Rory McDuff is going purple in Sector 1 and 2 to kind of match the accents on his car right now, and he'd love to be at the front of the field looking back in the mirrors at everybody else. Let's see, over the line he goes. And it's second place for the moment, 1/10.5 down on Erhan Yayoski, but he's the second man to get into the 1 minute 44 bracket. Over the line comes Christian Mikel as well, and he gets even closer. 85 thousandths behind Erhan Yayoski on this occasion, but he's not able to dethrone the North Macedonian and, of course, the two-time GT Pro Series champion, which we can't forget. He looks like he's going to take pole unless anybody can really come from behind and do something about it. There's his celebration, straight into the barriers, but he doesn't care at this point. It's Erhan Yayoski who's going to take pole, and I can't say that's a big surprise, but he had a good run for his money at the end there. Rory McDuff and Christian Mikel especially really pulled it out of the bag at the end there.
Yeah, it's not over yet. As we're watching now, Adam Baldwin in the Juicers Motorsports McLaren going pretty quickly in Sector 1, and as Jimmy Nisula as well, also looking, he lost a little bit in the second sector, but could improve. No, it does stay in P8 for Jimmy Nisula then. And yeah, you're seeing just how the track's rubbering in every time we swap to a different driver. It seems like they've gone purple in Sector 1, so they're finding the grip out there, but it's chaining that perfect lap together at the moment, trying to get it all hooked up, and that's really going to be the only way that anybody's going to be able to knock Yayoski off of the few that are just finishing off their laps now at the end of the session.
Yeah, over the line for Adam Baldwin. He goes 5th. Just a quarter of a second behind. We also saw Silva going over the line. He's 11th. Here's Johan Kurjan, and he qualified very well in pre-qualifying. 5th place in the Bentley. Not able to get it hooked up really in the real qualifying though. A lot of pressure when there's only 15 minutes to actually get your lap in, and yeah, it's a big moment. And unfortunately, Kurjan's not been able to quite produce what he managed before. Cam Roger produces a good lap right at the end though. From 28th to 23rd he goes up to for Burst Esports. But there is your qualifying for the first round of the GT Challenge Series. It's going to be Erhan Yayoski who's going to be taking pole position. Nigel Velix are going to be really chasing him from behind, and they're going to be hounding him all race long. We're going to have Adam Baldwin in there. I'll tell you my performance of the qualifying so far. Zoltan Barkingi has got himself into the top, I think he's 7th place off of that qualifying session. Phenomenal effort from him. The Hungarian driver for Mugen Sim Racing, not really been on the world stage for very long, or long at all. He's often doing smaller regional races in sim racing leagues. By no means an inexperienced driver, but on the world stage we've not really seen very much of him, and here he is banging his drum very loudly indeed in 7th place. So yeah, well done to him. But Yayoski is on pole. That's not really a surprise, but are we going to have a surprise down into turn number 1? Are we going to get through there cleanly? It's the big talking point, and I guess it's what a lot of people are tuned in for, to wait and see just how this turn 1 and 2 section is going to go. It's very famous, but are we going to make it through without accident?
Yeah, it's definitely the thing to watch out for. Is Monza Turn 1. It's not memed over for no reason by loads of people in the sim racing community. It's Monza Turn 1. What do you expect? Of course, we saw it affect GT Pro on Monday. There was quite a calamitous incident going into Turn 1 there. So will we see the same, or are we going to see a little bit more patience, a little bit more reservation from these guys going into turn one, knowing what happened on Monday. Are they going to be a little bit more chilled out? We're going to have to wait and see. We've just got a little bit of a warm-up to go now before we are into the race.
Yeah, indeed. Just a little bit of sorting out to do before we get into it. Currently looking at a couple of the Nitro Alex boys who've had a very, very good opening qualifying session there. Christian Mikel, the best, excuse me, the best of them. He's in second place and will be alongside Yoski for the opener of this GT Challenge season. He was the virtual endurance champion in. I wouldn't like to say what year it is, but it was season 7 anyway. Good 6 or 7 years ago now. He's been around for a while. Let's put it that way. And he's very, very experienced indeed. He's in one of those Audis that have been up the front in pre-qualifying, and now indeed in actual qualifying here. Mikel was second in pre-qualifying. And he's second in qualifying as well, but to a different man on this occasion, with Yoski sneaking in there instead. But believe it or not, this is the German's first ever GT Challenge appearance. So I have to say that surprised me when I was looking through the statistics. He's not been in GT Challenge or Pro. He's very, very, very new to this format anyway, but doesn't seem to be taking him by surprise too much at all, as we watch Roland Zooks go into the pit lane. Also for Mugen Sim Racing, I see him more of a prototype driver actually, but trying his hands at the GT3s. Lots of different people on the grid actually in this season. And what I would like to say, because GT Pro obviously has moved to GTE for Season 4, how this affects GT Challenge here this season. Season 4, these guys obviously are going to make their way into GT Pro. At least 5 of them are going to make it in on pure merit driving GT3 cars. But I just wonder if they're going to be a little bit not up to speed with the GTEs once they get into GT Pro. Is that really going to affect these guys? The fact that they've been driving GT3s the entire time, but all of a sudden they'll have to drive GTEs for a championship. Will that be a shock to them? Will we see a lot of yo-yoing drivers, or are these guys going to be able to adapt to it? I'm not sure personally.
I think given some of the talent on show, it won't be too big of a deal. Obviously it does shake you up a little bit changing from one type of car to the next, but it does give us a nice feeder element as well, going from, of course, these GT3 cars into the slightly faster GTEs. It's like a step up as you'd see in other racing series. But I think, yes, there'll be a bit of a learning curve, but a lot of these guys have already proven that they've got the knowledge, they've got the ability to learn and adapt as they go. And yeah, while you might see them slow down for a little bit or maybe not be quite on pace, I think give them a little while and they'll be straight on it and up there with the rest of them, battling it out for positions higher up the order.
That's what we'd like to see anyway, as Henry Sinnick is making his way through Parabolica right now for Satellite Racing, who've got a couple of drivers on the list here today, along with Emu Nisala, Nello Pastorino, of course. But Sinnick, the Estonian driver, don't get many of them, but he is an Estonian driver, and making a return to GT Challenge after only making 3 event starts, 6 race starts if you want to call it that way, because we've got 2 races at an event. But he tried his hand at GT Challenge a very long time ago, back in Season 1. I say very long time ago, it was a year or 2, but either way, he tried his hand at GT Challenge, didn't like it, but back again now for Season 4. And here's Zoltan Varking, my driver of the qualifying session, certainly for Mugen Sim Racing, getting himself right up there into the mix. Here's the format, just in case you weren't with us a little bit earlier on. We already had a qualifying session where the guys can go around as many times as they like, and they can go around for as many times as they can in warm-up as well, by the looks of things. Getting themselves ready for the 15-minute sprint race. And normally you would say they'd use this time to get themselves into consistent race pace mode, which is very different to qualifying mode. But you kind of need sort of a qualifying mode for a sprint race. It's a very short race, 15 minutes. It's going to be over before it's begun for some of these guys. They're going to be wondering where the time's gone, to be honest. But it's a very different feeling going from qualifying to a sprint race. It's still going to be out all guns blazing. Let's just hope not all of the bullets are going to be used into turn 1. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, so turn one is the one to talk about, but 15-minute sprint race, and there again, if you missed it earlier on, the road to GT Pro, showing up the promotion and demotion format. Of course, top 5 from GT Challenge straight up there, and then 6 to 10 go into to the relegation group, being a race or two to decide who goes up and who stays and who goes down. And then obviously the reverse goes on at the bottom 10 as well, as we see a couple of McLarens getting a little bit racy there. But not only do we have the GT Pro promotion and demotion, there is the splits throughout this season of GT Challenge as well. So obviously we can only have so many cars on the grid, but there are a lot of people chomping at the bit to be up there fighting for a place in GT Pro. Pre-qualifying determines who gets to be in this top 30 that starts on round 1 and round 2. And then it is round 3. We use the results from round 1 and round 2, and so on. The previous 2 rounds will determine the splits for that current round all the way through the rest of the season. So there's pressure throughout this. It's not just a case of score as many points as you can, of course. It is, you're fighting for your position in your split as well, almost throughout the time.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated to explain, but I promise you it's not as complicated in real life. It's just hard to explain and write down indeed. But yeah, it's a simple moving up and down kind of system. But these guys in Split 1 are going to be the guys that you'll see in GT Pro next season. For example, remember in the top 5 go through automatically, and then the next 5 will be in a relegation race with some of the GT Pro guys as we go on board with the man of the moment, Erhan Yoski, GT Pro champion 2 times over in seasons 1 and 2. However, partly due to the pro draft system that we have these days, the ballast and all of that, he really struggled last season. I mean, desperately struggling last season for such a talented driver. It was almost you felt sorry for him on occasion, I have to say, but certainly back to his old ways right now, straight back to the front again, and we're expecting him to make a very quick bounce back to GT Pro really, and of course he's going to have a pretty good draw in the season. I know this is a long way in the future we're talking now, but in the season 5 draft he's going to have a very good position in that draft, and you'd have to say if you're looking at some early odds, GT Pro Season 5 is looking pretty good for Yoski, as long as he makes his way through this challenge season without too many major incidents. It shouldn't be too difficult for him to get into the top 5, surely.
Yeah, you would think, and I'm glad it was you that's come up with that and not me. I don't want that on my shoulders if we somehow manage to curse him by talking that far in the future, but. No, if he does manage to make his way through GT Challenge into GT Pro, you are right, he will be in a fantastic position to fight for that title, try and reclaim a 3rd GT Pro title in Season 5. But of course, we have got a long way to go between now and then. 6 rounds of GT Challenge. That's plenty of racing action, as we're seeing a bit of racing action on screen right now. Adam Baldwin looking at the inside of the Parabolica and getting it a little bit wrong. But it is only the warm-up, at least learning what not to do ahead of time.
Getting out of the way now, really, rather than a little bit later on, which is the right way around to do it, certainly. As we go on board with Danny Kish, who's just going to pull up in his McLaren right now. Interesting fact about Danny Kish, by the way, and this is another FSR-related fact, that he's never finished outside of the top 10 in a World Championship season that he's participated in, should I say. He's always been inside the top 10. I'm afraid that run may come to an end this year because it's not looking great for him, but he's a very solid driver. And I'm expecting another top 10 from him this season, actually, in GT Challenge, but I'm saying that about quite a lot of the drivers. I was looking through the entry list a little bit earlier on, you're thinking, yeah, they could be top 5, they could be pro next season, and then you realise you've got down to the 30th driver, and you said that about everybody, so it is. I don't want to say picking names out of a hat, because it is very competitive, but it's not all luck, certainly, but you are going to need a little bit of luck on your side, and anybody who gets in this field is going to be fully deserving of it. There can be no doubt about that as we go on board once again with Black Hawk Racing man Roman Yakubovic, the Russian driver who's very, very experienced in the Virtual Endurance Championship. You may have seen across rFactor 2 in the past, but he's not a bad GT driver himself either, so we're watching out for him throughout this season. Looks like we're going to transition into the race very, very shortly then, and we'll be able to look at the qualifying grid and the starting grid, should I say, for the race ahead. Sprint race coming up, 15 minutes in length, and then we'll reverse the top 10 and we'll stack them up again, and we'll go for a 45-minute race, which sounds like fun. So that's exactly what we're going to do, as we're going to look at the starting grid here in a few moments' time. It's going to be Erhan Yoski and Christian Mikel on the front row together, and a lot of Nitro Velix guys just in behind. Here it is in all its glory. Roy McDuff and Turka Hakkinen are on the second row, going to be hounding the RHG Esports man all the way down to turn 1, and indeed throughout the rest of this race. It's going to be Adam Baldwin alongside Jake de Stout in the third row, Varking and Andreas lining up next to each other in 7th and 8th for Mugen Sim Racing and NeedRacing.com respectively. Yimi Nisler is the first of the satellite racing cars, with Diogo Silva rounding out the top 10. Daniel Stepowski is the best Porsche in 11th, ahead of Danny Kish, who's one of the neutral drivers in a McLaren. Thomas Vack is lining up directly behind his teammate, on the starting grid at least, in 13th. Roland Zooks is just ahead of his teammate David Koloksai in 14th. Then Guillaume Mas is 16th, ahead of Johan Kurjan and Robin Panzer, lined up next to each other on the next row. Jan Venginger is in 19th, ahead of Paul August Lahn for the Volante Racing team. Then we've got Roman Jakubovic and Dragan Nikic in 22nd. Cam Roger, with that late lap time, was in 23rd, ahead of Nico Barkley. A little bit surprising to see him in 24th. Remy Delorme alongside Fabian Barlett for what look like teammates, but they're not actually. They're just in very similar liveries. Then we do have actual teammates in Cynic and Pastorino in 27th and 28th. And then we've got Yao Asensio in 29th position for the GTC Race Centre to round out your 29 car field. And all of those cars are going to have to filter their way through turns 1 and 2 nice and safely. Yoski leads them off, then Paul. Yes, an exciting race in front. It's going to be an all-out brawl for 15 minutes.
Absolutely will, and turn 1's going to be vitally important, as is the whole rest of this 15-minute sprint, of course, with the top 10 reversing themselves. There's I wouldn't want to call who's going to win it. There's so much pace out there between every single one of these drivers. Anything can happen as we head round through Ascari on this formation lap ahead of the start. It's going to be an exciting one, folks, so don't go anywhere. We've got Audis 1, 2, 3, 4, but as we've heard, the McLarens may have more race pace, so they could be coming at them the later we go through this race as well. It's not all done and dusted just because they got the fastest times in qualifying, of course, and we don't really know what to expect from the Porsches. They could be quite quick in the race as well, so as we say, anything can happen. We're heading down to the Parabolica to start the race then. Just round this final corner and then down to the start line. The lights will go green and we will be away for the first sprint race of the season.
GT Challenge Season 4 here at Monza, the grand opening of this great championship. Once again, Erhan Yoski and Christian Mikel to kick us off. 15 minutes at Monza and we're underway. Adam Baldwin already making moves, switching to the inside line, deciding that's the safer place to be as they all funnel their way towards turn 1 at the moment. It's an Audi blockade at the front. Baldwin can't find anywhere to go. Yoski on the outside line into turn 1. Mikel on his inside line. They go side by side through the first couple of corners, but Mikel has to slot in behind for now. The two Nitro Velix cars are side by side as well. That's Hakkinen and McDuff battling over third place already as we look behind from Yoski. It looks like it's been a very clean start there, but the Macedonian is defending again as Mikel's switching any which way to try and find a way through. He can't for the moment, so Yoski holds serve on the lead.
Yeah, and it was a very clean start for all the leaders. I think most of the cars making it through turn 1 pretty much unscathed, which was very, very good to see. And we're seeing some great racing up and down the grid as we're watching on now with Jimmy Nisler. He's trying to fight his way through in the back half of the top 10. And yeah, battles all over the place. And we're seeing, yes, Jimmy Nisler here in the McLaren showing the pace in the race he's got here as he looks like he's pulling along. This is Roman Jakubovic now looking to pull alongside Jan Venniger down into Ascari. trying to take 20th place away, but the Porsche looks like it's very good on the brakes. There's somebody off in the background. That's an Audi. Cam Roger going, spinning around, just about keeps it out of the wall.
Oh dear, yeah, not a good start to Cam Rogers' season, I'm afraid. He's battled hard to get into the top 30 in pre-qualifying, but it's all come to nothing because it looks like he's going to be about 29th by the end of this race. Only 13 minutes to go. You'd probably suggest there's only going to be 8 laps or so in this one, although maybe a little bit more. We'll wait and see if there's going to be 9, but either way, oh, big crash in the background, rear wings off for somebody, and we're not quite sure who just for the moment. One of the Audis involved, as well as Nico Barkley in the McLaren, who's got no rear wing. Dragan Nikic is involved, I'm afraid. One of the neutral drivers for Audi is getting underway again. He's got a bit of damage though, I'm afraid, so that's going to be problematic for him. Looks like the incidents haven't happened into turn 1 indeed, but into Parabolica we've seen a little incident. We'll try and get a replay up for you if we can, and I'll show you what happened. Looked like we had a bit of contact between Philip Dreas and Jake de Stout there as well, just in the foreground of that shot. They're battling over 6th place with Dreas coming out on top, but yeah, we said that it was going to be an all-out brawl for 15 minutes. These guys certainly got their elbows out early on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we were, as we say, we were expecting incidents into turn 1. We didn't quite get them. We got them just about everywhere else, I think. Ascari and Parabolica, which not the corners I would have expected to see some incidents going on, but we have seen them nonetheless. And all the while, Aaron Yayovsky is pulling ahead now of Mikel in P2, nearly 1.5 seconds the gap, so he's really stretching the legs on that Audi at the moment out in front while we're watching all of this going on in the background. Here is the replay then. This is Cam Roger going down into Ascari, and just a bit of contact, bit of door barging, and there was nowhere really he could have gone. Wheels on the grass, and at that point you've just got no traction. You're basically a passenger. As we flick back now to the live feed, watching along with Diogo Silva chasing after Jake de Stout, who's he's not had the best of starts compared to the rest of his teammates in the Nita Velik's cars. Dropped down to 7th place, coming under pressure now from the McLaren man down into turn 1. He's pulled up to the inside, thinking a bit better of it for the time being, but definitely looking like there may be a move on there soon.
Yeah, very soon it looks like maybe. I have to say that was a little bit rude. I think it was Dragan Nikic actually who just got into the side of Cam Roger, but it didn't really leave him anywhere to go. Let's see what happened at Parabolica though, because this was a more spectacular accident. Nikic getting himself into trouble again actually. Nico Barkley got down his inside. Nikic trying to turn back on him. Oh, Barkley, I'm not sure if he got help there or not, but he certainly I'd need a I'll have to have a look at this one again. Let's see if there was contact. Hard to tell from that angle, but Remy Delorme got involved and he didn't really want to be, I'm afraid. This is the view from Barkley. Is there going to be contact here on the... Oh no, on the traction, just drops it on the exit. There was contact on the way in, obviously. That was a barge through on Nikic. That was all fair enough, but Barkley just spinning around, and when the cars are so compacted like that, you really can't afford to be going anywhere but straight, really, because that kind of thing can happen.
Yeah, just an unfortunate case of collecting the cars around you while you're having your own sort of an accident, and it does sort of almost ruin the race for a few others. But that's unfortunately one of the sides of racing sometimes, is not everybody's perfect, of course. They're all humans behind the wheel. Mistakes can happen. Of course, we never want to see them, but as we see, that's very, very close from Johan Kurjan, almost climbing onto the diffuser of that Audi up in front of the Mugen Sim Racing car. He's sniffing around, trying to find a gap. I think having to back off the way he did may have put him a little bit too far out for trying to get a move as we head down to the Rettifilio for turn 1. And we're taking a look by the looks of it, and no, we're going to switch now over to Rory McDuff up in P4. He's had an okay start, but he is, as we were saying before the start of the race, coming under pressure from McLaren's now. Adam Baldwin in P5. Looking to stretch the legs on that McLaren, show the race pace we've heard they have, but he's not got just one Audi to get through. He's got about 3 or 4. So that was close. Very, very close. No love lost between these two on the road at the moment.
Very close between them. We saw Alan Baldwin going for a move at Parabolica in warm-up. We saw he was aggressive. Thought that he would never do that in a race situation, but He nearly just did there, sticking his nose in at the second chicane. And it could have turned a bit nasty, actually, between those two. It's certainly opened up a gap towards Turkka Hakkinen. And actually, the gaps at the front of the field are fairly large right now. 2 seconds for the lead with the Yoski in front of Mikkel there, who's got a second and a half over Hakkinen. And then another second and a half back to this battle involving Rory McDuff and Philip Dreas. Jake de Stout's not too far behind, just kind of waiting in the wings, but Philip Dreas is just behind this shot right now. He's really closing on Adam Baldwin, who's not fighting this. Dreas is going down the inside into Parabolica, whizzes by, straight through. No arguments really from Adam Baldwin, who just lets him through in the end for Juices Motorsport Club. Maybe deciding that he can get him back into turn number 1, but let's wait and see if indeed that is going to be the case. Obviously these two both in McLaren, so the straight line speed factor can be put to bed just briefly, but no real slipstream for Baldwin there. Not a good enough exit off of Parabolica, but you're not exactly short of overtaking opportunities around Monza. He is going to get another chance here.
He will be looking to try and retake that place, as we're seeing overtake. That looked like it was going to be a hell of a dive bomb there. Robin Pansart trying to go around the outside of Johan Kerjen into turn 1. Not quite able to make that happen, but it would have been a very impressive move if he'd have pulled that off. It looked like he came from miles back in the McLaren, and now he's got to watch out for Paul Lovaslana behind him, not that far back at all in another Bentley. He's in a bit of a Bentley sandwich at the moment, and that's got to be a bit terrifying, the size of those things. Those sausage curbs are getting some real clouts from these guys as they go through the Della Roggia chicane. And this is that battle once again with Dries and Baldwin. The two McLarens, it's just going to come down to a battle of skill and setup between these guys. Who's got the faster setup, who's got more talent almost, because they are in virtually the same car. Who's going to be the one to finish ahead with just 6.5 minutes to go. Still plenty of time to make a move. But is it going to get done?
We'll see. Here it looks like they're fairly distant from each other right now. It's just calming down, but it's a lot of Audi and McLaren up the front of the field. I think that's fair to say. The first non-Audi or McLaren is in 12th place. It's Daniel Stopowski, who's just in front of Thomas Vack. They're both in Porsches for Mad 4 Mini Motorsport in this race. They qualified identically almost in pre-qualifying, and then they did very nearly the same in actual qualifying, and they're joined at the hip again in the race. So they're as one of them spins around, Johan Kerjan goes for a spin. He qualified so well, but he's dropping down dreadfully now, I'm afraid. His teammate goes past, and Cam Roger not quite able to go fast, but he's dropping down a long way. Johan Kerjan, we'll wait and see if that was on his own or indeed he got help through the Parabolica on that occasion, but not good for Kerjan. We've seen a lot of spins so far in this one, but a couple not really caused by anybody else, which has been a little bit strange. We'll pull up a replay in a few moments' time, but it was lucky to be avoided by everybody because he was in the middle of the road at quite a compacted part of the field, so we could have seen another episode of what we saw a little bit earlier on with all of the crashing going on, but luckily we had a bit of a happier ending on this occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very, very good decision to stamp on the brakes on that Bentley and just stop it where it was. And I know it's the worst feeling when you're behind the wheel and you've had a spin and you can just see car after car coming past, but there's no safe way to rejoin the track until they've all gone through. So you've just got to wait for all your rivals to pass you by. It's the worst feeling, but it was very, very smart decision. And here is this what happened? This is on board with Paul Lovaslana coming up the inside. And it was actually contact between the two. Paul Lovaslana trying to slip up the inside, not able to hold on to it, going into the side of the Bentley driver, and looks like a lot of damage to Paul Lovaslana's car as well. I think I saw a moment ago he has retired from this race, and here is from Johan Kerjan's point of view, it was contact as well with the Audi, in fact, so it was all going on between those guys, and yeah, that was a big clout into the wall.
Oh! Wow, one of the satellite racing cars did a superb job of avoiding him there, because that could have been a hefty incident as Danny Kish gets down the inside of Diogo Silva into turn number 1. Two McLarens going right at it. Kish on the inside line, but it's not yielded anything for him on this occasion. It's a decent exit, but is it going to be enough for the Hungarian to get through on Silva? They go through the Curva Grande now, and we'll wait and see into the Della Roggia. whether there's going to be a move here at the second chicane. He's looking again outside line this time around, and nothing really doing, unless he can stick there. No, not quite, and this is going to leave the door wide open for Jimmy Nisela to try and get through. And here comes Alton Varkingi as well, down the inside of Nisela, who had to check up to make sure he didn't get into the back of the McLaren. And Varkingi shoves Nisela out wide and says, this is my 10th place, because that's going to give him pole position for the second race. This is going to be a fierce battle now between Varkingi and Nisela, because as I mentioned, it's so important for the rest of this event.
Absolutely right, and Jimmy Nisela is now coming back at Varkingi down as we head towards Ascari. He's putting it around the outside of the first apex of Ascari. He's just about giving him the room, and can he hold on to that position on the exit as well? They're still pretty much running side by side, but it looks like Nisela's retaken that position for now, and now Varkingi is coming under pressure from Stopowski behind him as well. See the Porsche man pulling alongside, and this is a brilliant battle between what is about 5 cars now for what will be pole for the feature race.
Oh, that's a big dive from the Audi down the inside from Varkingi, and he's got great mid-corner traction as well. Not so good from Stopowski, who's sliding about all over the place. We're on board with him at the moment, but Guillaume Mas slips through on the inside line, says thank you very much once again, and he's going to be getting a fantastic slipstream, although doesn't look to quite have the straight line speed of the Audi and the Porsche around him. Let's wait and see into turn number 1 again, stamping on the brakes as you can in these GT3 cars, and it's Nisela who's going to come away with 10th place for the moment. 2 laps to go, including this one, but yeah, fantastic racing in the midfield. This is the kind of thing that a reverse grid brings you. Not only does it put the leaders towards the back, but it gives you these great fights in the preceding race.
Absolutely, I think we're jumping on board with a replay now of this battle that was going on. You can see the 2 McLarens going at it down into Della Roggia up ahead of us, and Nisela's just going to be just a little bit of contact even. That's what slowed him down, I think, as we headed down into the first Lesmo, and then Zoltan Varkingi, yeah, he was just like, thanks, I'll have that. That 10th place is mine now. Of course, he didn't keep it for very long as we headed down towards Ascari, but it's a warning shot to Nisela to say, yep, I'm here, and if you keep making mistakes and little mess-ups like that, I'm going to have that position. And Varkingi now having to watch behind him in his mirrors as Mas is looking to try and steal a position away from him as well. Just having to back off a bit through Ascari, but this battle for 11th is really hotting up as we come towards the end of this sprint race. You feel like any one of these 6 cars could finish in any order. Even though there is only a lap to go, they're that close on track, as you can see, heading down towards the Parabolica once again. A bit of a sandwich between the 2 Porsches, and Mas diving up to the inside now. That looked a little bit wide for Varkingi, so they're going to be side by side heading down the main straight, and yeah, Mas is just powering past.
He did that to Stopowski on the last lap, but now here comes Stopowski with some fantastic straight line speed. The Porsche looks like it might get both Audis into turn 1, inside line, but later on the brakes there for Guillaume Mas. He's around the outside for the first part, but there's big contact. Guillaume Mas goes spinning around into the gravel. He's got no way to get back onto the circuit again without ruining everybody else's race, so the train has to come on by, and that's such a shame for Guillaume Mas. Somebody might get into trouble for that, because it's a little bit of a controversial incident. We'll wait and see, and we might get a replay of it as well to show you, because that is going to be a very much talked about incident with the stewards, and obviously you at home as well putting in your own opinions. But goodness me, that battle was getting very close indeed. It was hotting up very nicely, but I'm afraid it's ended up with Guillaume Mas spinning around, and we're still waiting to see his name on the left-hand side to see where he's ended up here. Here's Daniel Stopowski trying to make the move up the inside. Now, does he get rear-ended here? Does he spin? He gets on that curb, and once you've kind of hooked that Audi with your car, then it's kind of hard to save it for Mas or Stopowski indeed. So it's a little bit of a difficult situation for everybody there, but this is what's left of the battle. It's given David Koloksa a few more positions, but Erhan Yayoski hasn't need to gain any positions in this race, because it's been a lights to flag victory from pole position to checkered flag. It is Erhan Yayoski who wins race 1 of the GT Challenge Series in season 4 here at Monza 3 seconds in front of Christian Mikel, Turkka Häkkinen and Rory McDuff. The Nitro Velix guys coming in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, which is not bad at all, but still in the wake of the 2-time Pro Series champion. Jimmy Nisler comes over the line in 10th. He'll be on pole for the next race, but we didn't see very much of him at all, Hanyoski, but it was an absolute clinic from him. No faults in anything he did in that race at all.
Yeah, you don't get to be 2-time GT Pro champion for nothing, I suppose. Just showing exactly why he has those titles in this opening sprint race. And we'll get to see the racing part of it in the next race, of course, because he'll be starting from P10 come the feature race. So that'll be very, very interesting to watch. There is the confirmed finishing order then. Hanyoski finishing first with the 3 of the Nitro Velix cars. Christian Mikel, Turkka Häkkinen and Rory McDuff in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Philip Dryce managed to get himself up to P5 with Adam Baldwin not able to get that position off him come the end of the race, having to settle for 6th. Then it's Jake de Stout in the other Nitro Velix car in P7, Diogo Silva, the GT Race Centre in P8, Daniel Kish, great race from him, up to P9, and Jimmy Nisler will be starting on pole for the feature race for Satellite Racing, finishing the sprint race in P10. So that is almost the reverse grid, and then further back, starting the next race where they finished, Thomas Vaak for Matt Firmini in P11 did manage to win out that little battle that was going on with Zoltan Vakonyi in P12 and Robin Pansar in 13th. David Kalexai. Oh, it's reversed from quali. I see. I'm okay. Misunderstanding there. Same. So a slight correction. So the qualifying finishing order, the top 10 for that gets reversed for this feature race, not the result we've just seen.
So that's, I get it now.
Yes.
I didn't understand the rules
clarified.
But we've got that clarified now, and now we know what we're doing, sort of. So yeah, it doesn't really matter who prevailed in the battle. Excuse me. It kind of does for the points, but for everything else, it doesn't matter at all. Because Yoski was always going to start 10th in that race, whether he converted that into a race win or not. So there you go. Here's the rest of your drivers, by the way. Cam Roger had that spin 23rd, which is where he qualifies, so I guess he can't be too disappointed. Johan Kurjan with that late spin, 24th. Joao Asensio, 25th. Dragan Nikic, 26th. Ahead of Jakubic, who got a penalty, as well as Nico Barkley. Both of those guys got penalties, indeed, in their races. And Paul Logoslan, who was the only one not to make it to the end of that sprint race, I'm afraid, after that incident he had with Johan Kurjan about halfway through. So yeah, he decided to retire after that one, and didn't return. So there we go. There's your full 29 drivers after that one race. We're going to get into a 45-minute feature race now, though. We're in a few moments' time. Not sure how long, but we're going to be there soon. Other talking points that I get from that race was the cleanness of turn 1. We talked about that a lot, though. To be fair, it was the mid-pack battling, easily the highlight of that race. Not much going on up front. People kind of keeping their powder dry maybe for a little bit later on, but in the midfield it was completely wild stuff and very, very worth watching. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely, the midfield battle was incredible through that. We saw a 6-car battle almost for P11 in the sprint race. So if the midfield's like that again, and it probably will be, of course, because we do have the likes of Hanyoski, who put it on pole in qualifying. He's going to start in P10 now. He's got all of that racing to do. He's got positions to make up if he wants to win this next race. So with cars out of position, it just gives us even more racing to look out for. Of course, over a longer period of time as well, 45 minutes with the mandatory pit stop in this race. So there's so much to look forward to.
There absolutely is. And don't forget, with these guys all racing for points and racing for the GT Pro Series next season. And of course, you can catch the next round of the GT Pro Series next Monday. So not in 3 or 4 days' time, but Monday after that. The next round of the GT Pro Series will be on from Sebring, and then the Friday after that will be on with the GT Challenge race here once again. Then we're heading to Lime Rock Park and Loch Drummond for a little bit of an odd mid part of the season. A couple of odd circuits that these guys aren't very used to, I wouldn't have said. Here it is. Yeah, that's going to shake things up. Certainly never boring. There can be no doubt about that. And then Spa-Francorchamps and Indianapolis, 2 classics to end it off in this season. They're very much 3 distinct parts to this season for me. Kind of Monza and Sebring part where we kind of open things up. Monza often used as an opener in GT series in real life, and Sebring often used early on in the year as well for the motorsport calendar. And then, as I mentioned, a couple of those circuits that people won't be as used to. Always fun to go to those kind of circuits though, because they're not so methodical and not so drilled into how you're supposed to go racing around there, which is always fun for us, if not for the drivers. And then Spa and Indianapolis, everybody's going to know their way around there. There can be no doubt about that one in anybody's mind. So it's going to be a good season. There can be no doubt about that. I just hope there's going to be somebody to challenge Hanyuyoski for the title and for those spaces up in the top 5. I know we're talking about it like he's won the series already, but you know, he's looking very, very strong in this opening stanza, I guess. And he's looking like every bit the 2-time champion in the GT Pro Series that he is. But you know, we've got some promise further behind. Yeah, over a championship, you never know how it's going to evolve. And we've got some promise from some of those a little bit further behind to maybe challenge him for this title. Of course, those top 5 spaces are going to be very hard fought for.
Absolutely, yeah, they definitely will be. And we could see some rising stars throughout the season as well. Of course, we're talking about the names we know, sort of the likes of Yuto Hakkinen and Hanyuyoski, who we're expecting good results of. But when it comes to rising stars, anybody could sort of find their pace throughout the season. Of course, this is just the first race of a 6-race season, and there could be all kinds of nerves or anything behind there that once the season gets going and they get a bit more comfortable, they could really start to show what they're capable of as well and take the fight to these guys. So it could evolve as we go on, and we could see anybody taking the challenge to them in the GT Challenge as the season goes on. As you can see, the race format just in front of you there. We've had the 15-minute qualifying, we've had the 15-minute sprint, and we are about to start the 45-minute main race very shortly with the qualifying top 10 first. And so that does mean we will see Hanyuyoski starting from P10, very much out of position from what we saw in the previous race, where he did do lights to flag, and all the work to be done for Hanyuyoski now in this main race.
Yeah, certainly, and it's going to be a real true test, of who's going to be kind of the best on this grid, because you know, it's in my opinion, obviously it's very difficult to go fast anyway, but it is a little bit more difficult. It's a different skill, let's say, to cut your way through the field, like we sometimes don't see the great champions really doing. I know there's a lot of discussion about reverse grids in F1 and things like that, but you know, we don't often get to see the very best drivers cutting their way through the field. We sometimes do, but it's a rare event, and it's something we don't see very often, as I mentioned. But we'll be seeing it every week here. Well, not every week, every 2 weeks, but you see what I mean. We'll be seeing it every round here in the GT Challenge Series, and indeed in GT Pro, because it follows a very, very similar pattern. Just over 5 minutes until we get that race indeed, and we'll get it all underway for the main race. And here we are on board once again. We're running through a couple other drivers. Cam Roger, who is in the Audi, 23rd after the first race. I think if you've given him 23rd before the event, I think he would have taken it, but given the circumstances it came under, he might be a little bit disappointed, especially with the way the incident went around. I really don't think it was his fault, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's definitely shown he's got the pace to do better, and so has, as we flick very nicely onto Paul Auguslana, who of course got caught up in that incident towards the end of the sprint race, wound up not actually finishing the sprint race because of that as well. So he's definitely going to be out to prove what he can do behind the wheel of that Bentley, which it's a very striking livery on that Bentley, actually, with the bright blue and the lime green accents. I didn't quite like that on the Volante car.
It is quite good, yeah. It's a very striking livery indeed. Excuse me. Got himself involved in that incident, let's not forget, as you mentioned, in the first race, the only driver not to finish the first race here at Monza. Got himself involved with Johan Curzon. I have to say, again, it's given my opinion again, but into the Parabolica there, I really think he went in steaming in a little bit too much. I think he should have been a little bit more cautious on the way, especially the way the battle was developing between Curzon and Varkingi and all those guys. He really went steaming in at full pace, and I don't think he really needed to do that, because not only did he ruin his own race, but he actually gave damage to I didn't give damage to, but he certainly damaged the race of Johan Curzon in the end, and I think it was very, very avoidable indeed.
Yeah, I think you're right, and patience, of course, is one of those very, very important things in racing. I think with the 15-minute sprint race, perhaps there is a little bit less of being patient, knowing the clock is running down ever so, for just 15 minutes. It doesn't give you a whole lot of time to actually get moves done, so that a little bit of impatience if you think I'm faster than them, I need to get past them or my race is ruined. But I imagine we'll probably see a little bit more sort of patience and waiting out with this feature race being 45 minutes rather than 15, 3 times the length, gives you 3 times the time to make your way up to the position you're capable of, and plenty more time to sort of plan your attack and learn how your opponent's sort of driving in front of you and where their weaknesses are and any sort of gaps you can pick apart in their defences. As that Cynic getting all kinds of slidey through Ascari, it looks very, very fun. To be honest, I love seeing the cars slide through Ascari, just carrying as absolutely much speed as they can.
There does seem to be a lot of sliding going on, especially for GT3 cars. We often see almost emotionless, these cars. They don't really seem to have any character in real life anyway, but certainly got a little bit of a kick to them. Some of these corners, especially the Audi, I've noticed over the years, it seems to be a little bit on edge on occasion, which is all very good in a sprint race, but would you really want to cope with that over an endurance distance? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, should we have a couple of stats while we're waiting? Just under 2 minutes in warm-up right now, and we're getting towards race 2 here. It's the first time we've ever been to Italy in the GT Pro or Challenge series. We've never had a race in Italy up until now, so I can't give you any facts on that, but just a couple of facts on Erhan Yayoski, who's very, very good and has just won another GT Pro / Challenge race. He's had 8 GT Pro Series race wins in the past, including 5 in Season 2, on his way to winning the championship in a season where he only finished outside the top 10 once, but that's his 9th GT Pro or GT Challenge victory, and I'm not entirely sure, and I would have to go and fact check this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Answers on a postcard if you can confirm this or not, but he could well be the first driver to win a race in GT Pro and GT Challenge in the history. Has anybody won a race in both? I'm not entirely sure. There might be an obvious one I'm missing, in which case I'm very sorry, but he might be. He's certainly one of the very few to have done it, and back to winning ways for the first time since the first race in Indianapolis back in Season 2, which is a good 7-8 events ago now. So back to winning ways, but it's not like Yayoski's not been winning in other places since then. Of course, he's very, very good indeed, and we're seeing that here once again. Final seconds of warm-up then, and the second race is beckoning. Do you really think there's going to be a little bit more restraint in this race rather than the last one? Because 45 minutes in the grand scheme of things isn't that long either. I know it's supposed to be a main feature race, and it is 3 times as long, but it's not massively long compared to some other races. We'll talk about that in a few moments' time. But the starting grid is going to be coming up rather shortly, so we'll just make sure we run you through that first of all, because it's arguably more important this time around because of the reverse grid sensation that we have on this occasion. We've got Erhan Yayoski lining up 10th, as we've spoken about already. Christian Mikel's going to be back there with him, and further towards the front we're going to have guys like Diogo Silva, I think, is going to be on the front row. I'm straining to remember who came 10th in qualifying, but I've already forgotten, even though it was about half an hour ago. I have already forgotten, I'm afraid. So anyway, they're going to be coming up soon anyway, and we'll see who's Siu's on pole and on the front row indeed. It's Jimmy Nisler alongside Philip Dreas in 1 and 2. Zoltan Varkingi is in 3rd position ahead of Jake de Stout, who is indeed in 4th place. Nice mix of manufacturers as well up front. Anna Baldwin 5th ahead of the Nitro Velix boys, headed by Serge Hakkinen, then Roy McDuff and Christian Mikel to round out the top 8. Then we've got Erhan Yoski in 9th, Diego Silva's in 10th for whatever reason, excuse me. Daniel Stepalski is in 11th ahead of Danny Kish in 12th. Thomas Vack is 13th ahead of 2 Mugen Sim Racing cars in 14th and 15th. Then Guillaume Mas is in 16th for One Move Esports, the sole One Move Esports car on this grid, I might add. Then we've got Johan Kurjon in 17th ahead of Robin Panzoy, Jan Wenginger and Paul August Lahn. Line up 20th to round out your top 20 for the second race. Then we've got Roman Jakubic, Dragan Nikic, Cam Roger and Nico Barkley, your next 4. That's rows 11 and 12 in this race. Then getting towards the bottom 5, Remy Delorme, Fabien Bolle, 2 satellite racing cars again, Henry Stenick, Nello Pastorino, 27th and 28th. And then we've got João Asensio rounding out the bottom of your grid. A little bit longer of a race, but we might even see more action because of the faster drivers being a little bit further back. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it might be a combination. Like I was saying, we might see a little bit more restraint from some of the drivers, knowing they've got that little bit longer, albeit not huge amounts. 45 minutes, as you say, in the grand scheme of things, isn't a huge amount of distance. It is 3 times the length of the sprint race, so they might bear that in mind, and we might not see so many like heroic dives into Parabolica or Del Roger or the Retafilio chicane, for example. But yeah, there is still going to be that element of urgency with some of the faster guys. Try and clear them out, especially for this man we're riding on board with now, Erhan Yuyovsky in P9. He's got 3 of the Knight of Alex boys ahead. And I wonder if there may be a little bit of extra teamwork between those guys, trying to hold Erhan Yuyovsky back just to give themselves the better chance of moving forwards, if they may sacrifice 1 or 2 of their drivers' race just to try and hold Erhan Yuyovsky up. Because it could happen, it may not happen. We'll have to wait and see, but the main goal for Erhan Yuyovsky is to clear all of those cars. All those ones you see in front, he wants to get past them. And the final one he'll need to pass will be this one here for Satellite Racing, Jimmy Nisler, as we make our way down towards the Parabolica for the start of the feature race.
We do indeed. Let's see how it goes with some not unfamiliar names, but they certainly weren't up towards the front in the first race. Let's see if they can hold their own indeed in this one. How's the strategy going to play into it as well? That's something to note as well, and we'll talk about that as we get into the race. But here we go again, GT Challenge Series Race 2 here from Monza, the feature race, the reverse grid race. How is this going to play out with Jimmy Nisler in control of the field? The green flags are waving, and it's a fantastic start from Zoltan Varkingi, who gets himself on the outside line. It's 4 wide for the lead. Oh my goodness me, into turn number 1. Adam Baldwin steaming through the middle. He's got an unbelievable start, and it looks like he might well take the lead. Philip Dreas is on the inside, but not for much longer, because the Deuces Motorsport Club man makes it into the lead. A couple of knocks in the background, but not too much in the end. Baldwin to the lead then with Dreas in second. Varkingi and Nisler have had a terrible start here, especially Nisler, who was on the front of this grid. He's dropped 4 places in the first chicane. Can he make any back? Let's wait and see. Philip Dreas gets nearly down the inside of Adam Baldwin, not quite. Here comes Nisler though, on a bit of a recovery drive already. Here, 4th place. Not a good start for him, despite that overtake on Varkingi.
Yeah, what a start from Baldwin up into the lead on the first lap of the race, and as you say, Nisler now just looking to recover from that start as well. And yeah, everybody cleanly through the first few corners as well. I don't want to jinx it, touch wood, it stays this way, but very clean driving as well with all the battling we've got going on so far. Meanwhile, further back in the top 10, you've got Yovsky still behind the Knight of Alex boys. If you've got some yellows, I think that was somebody going off a little bit through the second Lesmo behind. He was battling with Miguel earlier on, and the lap has fallen back behind him for the time being, but with eyes are focused at the moment on this man, Jimmy Nisler, who had that not so great start. And looking at a little bit further down, actually Baldwin coming under pressure now from Dreas as we head down towards the parabolica. Here we are, riding on board with Philip Dryson, trying to find a gap to throw himself into to get past Baldwin and into the lead. As a little bit further back, we're looking at Turka Hakkinen now, taking a look on Varkonyi, who's also not had a great start. So there's racing all the way up and down the top 10 already. So much for that restraint I thought we might see.
Varkonyi's not had a good start, but more to the point, his pace is not really on it right now compared to his qualifying, for example, and indeed at the early part of his first race. Look at this, all fanning out behind. Goodness me, into turn number 1. Turka Hakkinen on the outside line. It's difficult when you're both in the Audi as Yoski and McDuff go side by side through turns 1 and 2. Sorry, that's Christian Mikel, not Rory McDuff, who's just waiting in the wings up in front. But Erhan Yoski gets up in front for the RHG Esports team. 8th place then for the race 1 winner, with Daniel Stopowski not too far behind, watching and looking at that Porsche. Fantastic in a straight line, challenging Christian Mikel again into the second chicane, but not able to do anything on that occasion. Let's take a look at some replays as we get on to this one. The green flag is going to be waving here in a few minutes' time, but Adam Baldwin, look at this. He gets an absolute slingshot and straight to the lead. Unbelievable start from him.
Yeah, it's almost like Yumi initially was going backwards there. He was getting completely mugged off going down towards turn 1. And you're right, Adam Baldwin with that absolutely incredible slingshot up into the lead of the race, where he still sits for now. As we take a look now at the battle for 6th with so many cars involved, all the way down to 11th place, trying to pip their way up through the grid. We're taking a look at the moment, of course, with Silva, who's got Stopowski in front of him in the Porsche, and everybody using as much of the track as they can coming out of Ascari. You can see little slipstream trains coming down, and that was very close there with Varkonyi and Hakkinen down into the parabolica, just trying to not break the toe on each other as we head through the parabolica once more. On board now with Johan Kurjen, who's up behind Diogo Silva, and that is a new fastest lap from Baldwin, who is out there absolutely flying at the moment.
See Johan Kurjan, who's making Diogo Silva defend, and that was very close indeed, but it's the outside line for the Bentley, late on the brakes. Is he going to be able to pull it up in time? Yes, he is, and he's going to have to muscle his way through on Silva, who's not letting this go very quickly, and indeed Kurjan does get into 11th place, and Danny Kish is on hand as well to not give Silva a rest at all here. Round the outside through the Curva Grande is not the best place to be because it's a long way round, but he's got a good run off of the first chicane, and there's a bit of contact, and that could have been more disastrous than it was, but there's still a little bit more into the next chicane, and here comes David Koloksai, as spinning around goes Danny Kish. Oh dear, into the second, or out of the second chicane I should say. He goes spinning around. That was getting very aggressive between the two McLarens, and you have to say that you felt it was coming.
Absolutely, yeah. It was. It's one of those corners where, being on the outside, you're always going to get squeezed a little bit, and that's exactly what happened to Danny Kish, who's out on the gravel, and at that point there's not really a whole lot you can do, trying to keep the car in a straight line, but couldn't quite manage it. Very lucky not to collect anybody else on the way through, but unfortunately for him, that is his race ruined for the time being, as we're back to this battle for the lead. Philip Dryce once again coming back at Adam Baldwin then in the McLaren, trying to get close, can't quite for the parabolica, but he's going to keep it as close as he can, try and get the slipstream down towards turn 1. Once again, you can see the different lines they're taking through there. Philip Dryce trying to get a bit more of a slingshot down the main straight we go then. And you can see just how close it's getting between the battle for the lead. You can see a little bit of weaving there from Adam Baldwin, trying to break the toe. Philip Dryce sticking right with him now, though, as we head down towards the first corner. Is Philip Dryce going to try and send it up the inside? I don't think he's close enough at the moment, so he's going to have to sit there for the time being, but he's definitely making his presence known to Adam Baldwin at the moment.
Yeah, certainly showing his hand, but doesn't look too interested in going through. I know there's a lot of weaving going on, but to me, doesn't look too interested in going through. Now, this was getting very aggressive between the two of them, Silva and also Danny Kish here. Now, I'm not entirely sure how, well, just getting on the gravel, trying to get the power down, and Koloksai was quite lucky, actually, to be able to get away with that. Could have been disastrous for him, and he could have been sent spinning around as well, but I'm afraid Koloksai was the only one who was... not Koloksai, excuse me, Danny Kish, I'm getting them mixed up. Danny Kish was the only one who lost out, and he's a DNF now, I'm afraid, from this race, joining two others from the 28 that actually got onto the grid for the second race. I'm afraid 3 of them are now gone, including Kish, who I just mentioned there. So let's take a look at some of the other replays. Here's from Danny Kish. He squeezed Silver a little bit into the chicane, I have to say, but then he got squeezed a little bit more, and then I'm afraid lost it on the exit because he was on the gravel, and that was the end of his day. So yeah, just getting a little bit too aggressive, not showing enough restraint, you have to say, in this stage of the race.
Yeah, I think as well, just looking at that, if I'm Coloxai, I'm buying a lottery ticket at that point. He was so close to getting just completely collected by Danny Cush going off. You could see it looked like there was millimetres between his rear wing and that McLaren coming across the road. We're incredibly lucky as we're now checking out our race 1 winner, and Yovski trying to carve his way through the field. He's got past one of the Knight of Alex cars. He's got another one in his sights as we head down towards turn 1. Taking a look at the inside, is he going to try and brave a move? I don't think he will. This is the restraint, I think, going out a little bit now, knowing he's got the time to build up the pace, find his time, and just get that move done. And then that'll be 2 of the 3 Knight of Alex guys, in fact 4 Knight of Alex guys he's got to get past if he wants to win this race as well. But yeah, one of them dispatched up to P8 already, still 37 minutes as we go back to this race for the lead, which I think is going to be going on for quite some time. Adam Baldwin is definitely one of, if not the fastest driver out there at the moment. Philip Dryce sticking with him though, trying to get past him into P1 in the needracing.com car. You can see that gap's been pretty much the same for the last few laps. Philip Dryce trying to find a gap as we head down towards Ascari. He's getting ever so close once again. But is there going to be a move on? It's very difficult, I think, to overtake into Ascari, so I'll be surprised if we see a move. He may just try and follow through as close as he can, get the best exit, and maybe try something through the Parabolica, which even then is a little bit risky in these cars.
Still not really showing too much intent to actually make a move here, although he does seem to have good straight line speed here, Philip Dres. Both in McLarens, as we've already mentioned, so there isn't much to choose between them in that respect, but there may well just be that one little moment for Baldwin, or indeed that one good exit for Dreas, and this might be the opportunity now. Under 3 temps as they came out of the Parabolica. It's not going to be anything like that as they get down towards turn 1. We can see gaining on this onboard camera. Baldwin very content on defending at the moment. Dreas fakes to the inside. Baldwin lets him have it into turn 1. They get very close. Baldwin gives him the room and they fight. There's contact between the leaders. Dreas holds it nicely and he actually gets the lead fully sideways, but into the lead for Philip Dreas. So needracing.com to the front ahead of Deuces Motorsport Club right now, but things are not settled between them. They go through the Curva Grande and they're still fighting it out. Is Baldwin going to go for the inside this time? Not quite. He's on the outside line. He's into the back of this fellow McLaren and he still can't get through. Let's take another look coming down into turn 1. Dreas just about had the room to get down here and in the end just about gave enough room to Baldwin as well. It was a good slide and a fantastic move, especially to watch for us. It was brilliant, but very skillful indeed. Philip Dreas is now in the front. However, he's letting those guys in the background now kind of gain on them again. The gap was nearly 3 seconds before and it was edging down towards 2 there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once when you get the race leaders squabbling like this, it does start to cost them both lap time, and that allows everybody else to sort of reel them back in, and suddenly your 2-car battle for the lead will become a 3 or 4-car battle, and then it gets really spicy as we hop on board now with Jimmy Issa trying to chase after the start just ahead of him, of course, trying to regain the positions he lost on the start. Of course, starting this race on pole, Jimmy Issa dropping down to P5. He's managed to get back past Rakonyi, but now he's chasing after the Knight of Alex man in front of him to retake that position as well before setting his sights on Baldwin and Dryce out front. He's been slowly closing this gap for a little while now, I think, trying to again pick his place and get the move done. We've heard, of course, we were saying earlier on from Cameron Roger, the McLaren does have more race pace than the Audi, so we may see that get put to use here by Nishila chasing after the Knight of Alex Audi in front.
Let's not forget that Just started a long way behind Nishila and is making his way up through the field. Nishila's trying to defend more in this occasion as Nico Barkley. Oh, this is a big spin around on lap 1 here into Ascari, and that's what spelled the end of his race with Nello Pastorino, I want to say. but certainly it was indeed Nello Pastorino who was involved there. So they're both, well, they're not both out of the race. Nico Barkley is out of the race. Nello Pastorino's just a long way back. And Dragan Nikic is also out of the race, I'm afraid to say, down there in 28th. So, 25 cars remaining circulating on the track right now. And this is the battle for third, by far the most interesting battle. But ever since he got through here, Jake Stout has not really got anywhere. He's been able to overtake a couple of cars off the start, and then this is Yumi Nisula getting through on him kind of naturally, I guess you could say. But he's not really making much progress after that. Maybe a little bit too much mirror watching, not entirely sure.
Yeah, maybe. I think he's getting a little bit antsy knowing that he's got Yumi Nisula behind him, and that could be affecting his pace, as you say. He's trying to keep an eye on the car behind and focus on what they're doing perhaps a little bit too much. It is allowing Grice and Baldwin to rebuild that gap that came down a little bit from the squabbling they were doing earlier on. And that means if they do go back to fighting again, which I'm sure they will before the end of the race, there'll be plenty of space for them to do it. As we take a look now at Yovsky. There's going to be a move up alongside another one of the Knight of Alex cars. It is down into the Parabolic and later on the brakes, and that is slam dunk. Thank you very much. I will have that position. So just able to be so much later on the brakes, and that was then Aaron Yuyovsky getting past Rory McDuff up into P7. So that's 2 of the 4 Knight of Alex cars he's managed to make his way past. He's making some reasonably quick work of those guys at the moment.
He is. I'm kind of surprised that Knight of Alex aren't putting up more of a fight here. And speaking of putting up a fight, Jan Weng was giving Paul August Lahn a good run for his money there. At least I think that's who's driving the Bentley just in front for the moment. It is indeed. Oh, and off the road for Lahn through Lesmo 1. And Lesmo 2 a little bit more well, I'll say that. And he's into the gravel again, but no harm really. Certainly seems that the top 15 are kind of running away from these guys, and the front of the race is getting away from them just ever so slightly. I'm really surprised McDuff didn't defend from Yuyovsky a bit more there, and I thought the advantage for Knight of Alex was going to be the fact that they had so many cars up there, meant that they could defend and help each other. You know, these 3 behind would help Jake de Stout and hold Yuyovsky back for as long as possible, but they're not really defending at all here. That's another one he's just dispatched of now. Yuyovsky's into 6th. Turkka Hakkinen was on the outside line there and wasn't really interested in covering the inside at all, which is quite shocking really, as they go down towards turn 1 as well. Hakkinen again not interested in getting back through, so either there's some kind of strategy at play here at Knight of Alex, or they're just bizarrely not defending from one of their main rivals, which I would find very, very peculiar.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there may be a difference in fuel loads between them. Obviously, with the mandatory pit stop, we could see that sort of thing playing out. Whether they realise at this point that Yuyovsky's maybe carrying a little bit less fuel, which is going to mean he has to pit a little bit earlier, take on more fuel towards the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. But Yuyovsky's definitely found his favourite place around this Monza circuit at the moment. It seems to be under braking into Parabolica. That he's got past at least 2 of the cars behind him now at the exact same place under brakes. So he's definitely found his favoured position, and come the end of the race, if the Knight of Alex guys manage to get back ahead with a strategy from pit stops or one way or another, that's something they can bear in mind. They've seen him pull his move off now a few times on their drivers. They know where to defend harder from, so showing your hand super early may not be the best case around here. As we take a look back for this battle for the lead once again, Adam Baldwin trying to reel Philip Grice back in down the straight towards the Parabolica. The gap expanded a little bit for a little while between these two, but Adam Baldwin just trying to bring it down bit little by little and retake the fight to Grice right now.
Let's not forget, just going back to your point about Yuyovsky and where to defend, if we remember back to qualifying, we were seeing a lot of purple sectors coming in late on, but none of them were purple final sectors. We didn't see many green final sectors either, but no purple final sectors suggests to me that Gurjowski was on fire through the final sector, and of course, Oscari is contained within that. So, let's not forget about that before we are surprised about his runs into Parabolica, as runs out of Parabolica is what Jimmy Nisler just used to get alongside Jake de Stout, and he's managed to get the inside line through Curva Grande as well, and the shorter distance may well help himself to a third place here. Let's wait and see. They've got to battle it out in the second chicane first. It's letting these leaders get away once again, but let's see how much Jake de Stout fights this. Not very much in the end. Varking, thought about getting involved, but not quite. So it all stacks up behind, but now they've got a 5-second lead to Philip Dreas and Darren Baldwin, and lap by lap, it's looking like a battle between those two. Here's how Nisler got through into third.
Yeah, so it was just a case of he seemed to have a better drive out of Parabolica, pulled up the inside of the first corner and gave the space. Not a very respectful race in between these guys, and left himself with the inside line up to the Curva Grande, as we saw on the exit to the first chicane, and just used that shorter line to take the position away. And that recovery drive is falling into place a little bit for Nisler now. He just needs to reel in the race leaders now and see if he can take the fight to Dryson Baldwin, as well as we're seeing yet another move out of Ascari from Erhan Yovsky, this time on Vakonyi on the other side of the track, going around the outside this time down towards the Parabolica. And yeah, it just seems like he's able to carry so much more momentum out of Ascari. Every single time we see him going down there, it's like he's going 30-40 miles an hour faster than everybody else almost. It's like a rocket ship, that Audi in the final sector, and that is almost another easy position there for Yovsky.
Here comes Hakkinen as well. Hakkinen on the outside line of Zoltan Varkingi into turn one, and he's got the slipstream as well. Varkingi is defended, but also hit a brick wall of air there, and he's going to have to defend hard. They're both deep inside the braking zone right now, and they're still fighting it out shoulder to shoulder, and they're muscling each other off right now. Rory McDuffie's going to try and follow his teammate through. These guys have got to be careful not to get connected here and cause a monumental accident, because it would be, as Varkingi has the inside line for Curva Grande, which is going to help him a little bit. But here comes the run for Hakkinen, and McDuff as well, who's just going to watch on from behind. Oh my word, they're so close, but Hakkinen takes it late enough on the brakes there just to be able to get through. Varkingi not giving up though into Lesmo 1, not able to get through just for the moment. Exciting racing, certainly. Yoski showing that even if you do defend into Parabolica, it might not be enough to even stand a chance of keeping him behind. And indeed, when you get overtaken by him, you've got to watch on behind, because this battle is, or this train now is so close that you can't really afford to be pushed out of line at any point, because then the train's just going to come on by.
Yeah, and you have to feel now the Knights of Alex guys are really starting to turn it up to set back off down the road after Yovsky. They've all pressuring you, Vakonyi like nothing else at the moment. Now Hakkinen's through, he's got McDuff to worry about, as we're taking a look now at Yovsky trying to take on one of the other Knights of Alex guys down towards the Parabolica. This is Peter Stout up in front, as you can see the onboard from Yovsky of this move as well. Lovely picture-in-picture action as we head around, and this time Yovsky not able to get the move done by the time we go into the Parabolica, but he's just going to slingshot out and try and get the slipstream down towards turn one. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to try and fake the Stout out? Is he going to sell him a dummy somewhere? We'll have to wait and see. You can see just how close they are, and it is down to the inside then for Yovsky on the Stout. Is he going to be able to hold it in time? And he is, and there wasn't really a whole lot of defending there, it looked like, from the Stout.
Not really, but certainly it was a close drag race between the two of them. Christian Mikel just got through on Rory McDuff as well down into turn one, by the way. That was a Knight of Alex, a little bit of a swap going on between the two of them. Not sure if it was orchestrated or not. Didn't look like it to me, but because it would be hard to do in a train like this, as you might be able to imagine. But yeah, certainly Christian Mikel starting to stretch his legs here in this one. It's back to where he begun the race, certainly, but got overtaken by Yoski fairly early on, as has everybody subsequently. So let's wait and see. Was this orchestrated? It actually looks like it. McDuff gets early on the brakes, Mikel very late on them, and yeah, that looks like it might have been a planned move. Not entirely sure what the communication will be like between drivers in this kind of race. It's a short race, teammates kind of at play, I guess. It looks like they might have been at play there, but yeah, it's certainly not like an endurance race where you'd definitely be in your team or chatting to your teammates at the same time. But although it did It did certainly look like those two both knew that overtake was going to happen because they had just planned it.
Yeah, and perhaps this may be why, as we see Christian Mikel now taking a look at Verconyi going down into the Parabolica. Can't quite sling it around the inside, but he's going to carry that momentum up, give him what will be the inside line down towards turn 1 and into the slipstream once more. But will he keep that inside line down into turn 1? Is he going to be carrying enough momentum on Zoltan Verconyi? Verconyi going defensive early up towards the inside. He's going to force Mikel around the outside if he wants to battle for this position. That's almost pulling alongside, squeezing him at the outside. I think that's a pretty firm no from Verconyi, but it's not over yet as we head down through the Curva Grande once more, as we take a look a little bit further back now in this same battle for 6th position, down on board with Kurjan. Taking a look at Stupovsky up in front of him as well. You can see just how close this battle is. All the cars in front, all battling for 6th position.
Christian Mikel he was on the inside briefly, but wasn't able to get through. Varkingi stays in front for the moment. McDuff forced to get in line as well. So it's a train as they go through the two Lesmos as well. And it's getting very close indeed between all of these guys. Bit of sliding going on as well through, but they're all very distant from the lead of the race. Philip Dreas and Adam Baldwin, we got a glimpse of them not so long ago. They're still out front, 2 for the lead. Not entirely sure if Baldwin's just hanging back or whether he can't actually live with Dreas right now, but it would certainly be a fairy tale story for needracing.com if they were able to get a race win with Philip Dreas here. Up 1 space from his grid order, and Yoski doing one of the best certainly inside the top 10. Kurjan's not doing bad either, but he might be able to lose one of those spots right now because, gain another one, because that's Stopowski defending from him, not indeed trying to go through. There may be a move coming on down into turn number 1, but I'd be surprised given the straight line speed of that Porsche. It seems to be very, very strong indeed. Let's go on board with Roy McDuff though, because these guys have been very, very close for the last few moments. Varkingi is proving quite difficult to overtake though. We saw McDuff and Mikel swap not so long ago. Might have been because McDuff was struggling to get through, but Christian Mikel's not having too much more luck right now.
Yeah, I think it is a case of Verconyi's managed to really get his elbows out and made that Audi as absolutely wide as he can, and he's really, really giving these Knight of Alex guys a run for their money trying to get through, which of course is going to... That gets frustrating after a while if you think you can... You know you're faster, but the guy in front is just driving a better defensive drive than you were expecting. It can get frustrating behind the wheel, and that's where we might see some little mistakes coming out and a little bit of impatience as the race goes on, because of course we are over half distance now, just under 21 minutes to go in this feature race, as we're taking a look a little bit further back at Paul Oroslana with Remy Delorme chasing him down at the moment. And this is proving to be quite a close battle for 18th and 19th, and that's one thing I'm loving seeing at the moment. It's not just battles up front, it's battles everywhere you look at the moment in GT Challenge. As we watching this battle even further on, there's no love lost between all these guys on track. They want these positions absolutely the best they can, as we're seeing that is Henry Sinnick pulling alongside Remy Delorme down into Ascari, but not quite able to get the move done just yet. But this McLaren on McLaren battle might go on for a little while longer as we head down the back straight towards the Parabolica. Is Sinnick going to be in the slipstream for long enough to get enough overspeed to try the move we've seen Johan Jujovski do a few times so far in this race? He's going to have a look at it. Up the inside he goes. And yeah, just like we've seen Jujovski doing further up the grid, Sinnick diving up the inside of the Parabolica and making it stick. But Remy Delorme is coming back at him in the slipstream down the main straight now towards turn 1. Will he take a look? That's very early defensive driving from Sinnick, taking the inside line as we head down towards turn 1. It's side by side, Remy Delorme and Henry Sinnick. Who's going to come off on top? Who's going to brake later? Does look like Henry Sinnick, very late on the brakes in fact. Will he be able to stop it in time? He will, and Remy Delorme drops down behind him.
He's going to have to, but I'm a little bit surprised to see Henry Sinnick so far down. We saw this in race 1 because of his qualifying, but yeah, I'm very surprised indeed. He's a very good driver, and not used to seeing him battling for 19th, let's say, as Remy Delorme trying to get through, but no way through for the moment, and he stays behind. Here is the battle for the lead, and on the last lap, Adam Baldwin did lose a little bit more time to Philip Dreas just in front. It's 8 tenths of a second that separate them right now, but it fluctuates, of course, as these guys go through the lap. So coming up towards the end of another one, 10 laps to go. I think there's going to be here, because we're under 2-minute lap times, but we're just about coming up to 18 minutes to go. Probably 10 more still remaining for these guys. Obviously, this race is 3 times as long as it was. Or 3 times as long as the first race, I should say, which just giving them a little bit more time to get back through the field or fall down the field. Unfortunately for some that have experienced that throughout the race. But let's have a look at the battle with Varkingi involved, because he was a little bit of the cork in the bottle not so long ago. Still seems to be that way, but for whatever reason, despite the fact that Hakkinen and Just Out were able to get through without too much trouble, Mikel and McDuff are seemingly both stuck, and there doesn't seem to be a lot either of them could do about it right now.
No, Vakonyi is doing a great job of keeping those two behind. He's got the 2 Knight of Alex guys in front, and he's holding the other 2 up behind him as here we go with that battle. And Mikel once again trying to sense a way past Vakonyi as we head down into the Della Roggia chicane, but still not quite close enough. And whether he's just chilling out for the moment and waiting it out and gathering himself together, I'm not sure. As we hop aboard with Kurjan once again, putting the pressure on Stepovsky in the Porsche as we head through the first Lesmo down into Lesmo 2. Not really going to be a move, but can he carry the momentum down the back straight? Of course, we've seen the straight line speed on that Porsche. It's going to make life very difficult to get a move down here done. You can see even with the slipstream, the Porsche's ever so slightly pulling away through here, and I think that's going to be the big frustration for Kurjan at the moment. He's faster in the corners, but the Porsche seems to be faster in the straights.
Absolutely, it's very, very quick in the straight line by the looks of things, which is, you'd think, helpful around Monza, but it's not been so far for them. Not able to break the top 10 in a result so far, but Stopalski might be able to with this result here. Depends if he can stay in front of Kurjan or not. Might even look and set his sights a little bit further up the order, because the Audi certainly seems to be struggling that little bit against them in a straight line, especially the Nitro Velux ones. We've seen evidence of that so far, but let's have a look. Is Varkingi going to be under any pressure at all into turn 1? Or is it going to have to be brave from Mikel at some point if he is going to get through? If we're looking at this like a championship fight that we think it might be between Yoshki and Mikel and all of these Nitro Velux guys, then he's currently 4 places down on Yoshki. He really needs to get up the order just a little bit more, but when you're not able to, I guess you're not able to, and at round 1, I guess it's not worth putting all your cards on the table. I guess it's not worth putting all of your money on, you know what I mean. Anyway, it's not worth risking it all, is what I'm trying to say. It's not worth risking it all at this early stage, despite the fact that he is losing a fair amount of points as things stand.
Yeah, you may be right, and I thought we may have seen a move on there. It looked like Vakonyi went a bit deep into the first part of turn 1, and it sort of let Mikel have a little bit of a sniff, but there wasn't really any chance for him to get alongside. But we're talking about brewing battles, that one going on for a while. This one seems to be resurfacing once again. Adam Baldwin's really closed the gap down now on Philip Dryce, down to under half a second. It was nearly a second a little bit earlier on, so that battle's going on. Meanwhile, this one's still going on. Mikel very, very close still to the back of Vakonyi, and I feel like this is going to be a blink and you'll miss it kind of race with so many battles going on up and down the field. We're going to blink, and you don't want to miss anything. So get your matchsticks out, folks. Pry those eyelids open, because you really don't want to miss this. As we take a look down towards Parabolica, is this finally going to be the move for Mikel? He's around the outside. Can he hang on for now, or is he going to duck back into the slipstream, carry that speed and momentum down towards turn 1? Right in behind, you can see just how close he is now. He'll be able to almost smell the exhaust fumes coming out the back of that Audi. He's getting so close, almost climbing into the diffuser, as we see both the Knight of Alex guys pull across to the side, and we're across the inside. There's contact between the two of them, rubbing doors as they head down into turn 1, and still Vakonyi managing to hold on to the position.
What's a little bit of friendly fire there as well, with McDuff coming steaming into the corner. Mikel trying to get a run off of the corner, and the two lines almost converged there, and that could have been disastrous for the German. He would have been spinning around, but not on this occasion. Varkingi will have to defend again. He doesn't although didn't need to in the end because Christian Miguel can't get through. Good run out of the second chicane though, fantastic run, and into Lesmo 1. This might be the opportunity. Zoltan Varkingi on the outside line. He dealt this to Jimmy Nisler in the first race, and Miguel has just shoved him off indeed. Oh, Varkingi comes back. McDuff tries to let them both back through. McDuff gets through again, and they're side by side off the corner. Here's Stopowski trying to make it 3 wide, coming towards Ascari. Oh my word, this track is so narrow, but he might just about manage it. They're so close, they're rubbing panels on the way up there. Stopowski's got them both. Stopowski's got them both into Ascari. He's on the outside line, and he's made it through into 8th place. Fantastic driving. Varkingi's lost another one, I'm afraid. McDuff is still not able to get through. Johan Kurjan's involved, so's Robin Panzer, and Diego Silva is not too far behind either. This is fantastic racing at the moment. Towards the Parabolica they go again. The Porsche now leads the pack, but it's got fantastic straight line speed, so it might not be able to be answered here unless there's a bad run from Stopowski, which there isn't on this occasion. And the battle for 8th is up right now with 12.5 minutes to go. Robin Panzer gets on the outside line of Kurjan at the moment. Let's see if McDuff is going to be reeled into this fight. It doesn't look like it for the moment. It's going to be a fight between those two over 11th place, and Kurjan's come off second best there. He's dropped a couple of spaces to Diego Silva, who goes through as well. What a fantastic battle though. Stopowski, great driving.
Yeah, and I think Kurjan's going to be kicking himself a little bit there. It looked like there was a little bit of a contact between himself and Panzer going down into turn 1. He was taking a look up the inside, decided to try and fall back in, but Panzer was already there, I think, as we do take a look at a replay of the move a little bit earlier on through the Lesmos. You can see the two going off, and Stopowski at this point is licking his lips. He sees these guys squabbling away in front of him, and he knows he's got more top speed in a straight line, if I find the words. There we go. And he just puts that to great use on board with Johan Kurjan coming down there. And you can see Stopowski just pulling past them all the way down the straight and steals the position away. And yeah, it's a case of, okay, we're going to have a fight, but you need to be aware of your mirrors. And Stopowski taking advantage of those that aren't and just sliding his way through the lot of them. And that was a brilliant battle through that section of the track. And still holding that position now up to P8, Stopowski. And that is incredible. McDuff coming off worst of all of them there, I think, down in P10 now.
Yeah, he was trying not to get in the way of Christian Miguel by letting him through, but in doing so, he got a really poor run off Lesmo 2 and allowed Varkingi back in, which is really not what he wanted. We're on board with him right now, and we'll see if he can finally get through, but when he does, I don't really see where he's going to get to with it. Just over 10 minutes remaining in this race right now. We've got not too big of a gap for the lead, so let's hope we do get a fight between those guys towards the end. Yoski and Nisler, that fight isn't done yet either. Well, it's not really begun, but it's certainly going to commence by the end, I would imagine. Let's see, Johan Kurjan and Robin Panzer. Kurjan just coming back onto Robin Panzer's line really there. And I have to say that he was the one who came off second best, but I would say, without being too harsh, without wishing to be too harsh, I think that was probably his fault, really, edging back onto the line like that.
Yeah, it's exactly as I thought I saw it. I just don't think he realised the speed that Panzer was coming up behind him, thought he'd have enough room, and of course that Bentley is a hell of a big car, and just slightly misjudging it, and he's paid the price, really, unfortunately, for Kurjan, who looked like he was about ready to get involved for that battle for 8th place, and he's now going to have to try and claw his way back up as far as he can in the remaining 9.5 minutes, as we're keeping an eye on this battle still going on between Philip Drace and Adam Baldwin, and still the gap just 4/10. Adam Baldwin, of course, led after lap 1 and lost the position to Philip Drace earlier on, now looking to come back at him, and see the different approaches there as we get a very nice 3-wide view here of Yoski, McDuff and Adam Baldwin, all the different parts of the track, all involved in their own battles throughout the circuit. You see the race for the lead there on the far left-hand side. You can see Roy McDuff trying to find his way through still. And yeah, there's so much going on. I'm glad we've got access to these great views to see all these battles going on at once. You don't want to miss a single moment of the racing action. As you can see, Yoski's getting so close now. Nisler up in front of him.
This is great racing, up and down the field. And it's a bit of a misery cam, all three of these at the moment, because they're not quite close enough to make dives, but they're also really quite very close, if you see what I mean. So just in that very awkward distance of being close enough to be able to see them and, really start to get into the mirrors, but not quite able to make a dive just for the moment. It's the most frustrating distance to be at, but I feel like Philip Dreyes may have gone out a little bit too hard in this race right now, and is feeling the effects of that on his tyres maybe. Adam Baldwin taking a little bit better care of them and starting to come into his own in these final few minutes. 8 minutes to go as things stand. I think there are going to be 4 laps to go, maybe 5, but that's if they're very quick coming through these corners. But either way, not long. Certainly under 10 minutes by the time the race actually finishes. And Philip Dreyes has got a big job in his hands right now. That's a long time to be defending from a car that is faster than you. The saving grace for him is the fact that they are in the same car, and that's kind of useful because same machinery and all that, but it doesn't discount the fact that they're going to have much different tyres on at this situation. Obviously they both got them on since the start, but they have indeed got different wear on them. They've been looking after them in different ways. It doesn't look like Philip Dreyes has been looking after them very well as we go on board with Yoski trying to get through on Nisala, but look at the straight line speed of that McLaren. No way through for the race 1 winner there, and judging by that, Yoski is going to have a very difficult final 7 minutes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, both these guys were in GT Pro last season, and showing why with some great battling going on. As we take a look a little bit further back on board with McDuff, I believe this is, trying to chase after Viconyu once again, and still not able to get past. Viconyu's had but for all he's had throughout this race, he's driven a brilliant defensive battle to try and keep those Knight of Alex guys behind. And he's still doing a good job of that, but McDuff's going to have to watch his mirrors now as Pansar's coming up behind, and this is about as close as we've seen the battle for the lead now. As we take a look back at Philip Dreyes with Adam Baldwin all over the back of that car at the moment. 3/10 the gap. I think that is as close as they've been coming down towards Ascari once more, and it's all going to be about who can carry the more speed. And if it's Adam Baldwin, because he's looked after those tyres, he could have a run down to the Parabolica. We'll have to wait and see later on the brakes as we head down into Ascari. Who's going to carry the more momentum? Who's going to come out on top here? Different lines between the two, but that seems like Adam Baldwin's a lot faster through there. Which line's he going to go? He pulls over to the left side of the track. Alongside they go. Then you can see just how small the gap is as they pull along side by side now, down towards the Parabolica. Who's going to be the braver one on the brakes? Is it Dreyes going to have the inside line? Is Adam Baldwin going to try and take it round the long way, or is he going to try and switch back, pull it to the slipstream and take that momentum? A little bit wide for Adam Baldwin. There's no way through, as you say, and he's going to have to fall in behind and try and re-close that gap once again.
I think he was taken by surprise at the lack of grip on the outside there for Parabolica. There was really no grip to him to hang it round the outside, even though Dreyes is clearly struggling. You saw him going through Ascari then. He was wayward at best, really. And you could see him on the exit of turn 2, sliding that car. These guys have got traction control, ABS. And, you'd think that, often in real life, I mentioned earlier on, it seems that these cars have no character. You can't slide them about. But Philip Dreyes' car has certainly got a little bit too much character for him at the moment. It hits the slow-mo. You can just see the different lines that you basically want to drive like the guy on the left, I'm afraid. And, Philip Dreyes was not really there. I'll say that. And Adam Baldwin just puts himself in the gravel. But 2.5 seconds now. Yimi Nisala is quite close to the lead as well. Excuse me. Even the excitement is overcoming me now. Can maybe Yoski get himself involved? And Nisala, of course, can they maybe snatch a surprise victory? It's been Dreyes and Baldwin at the front of this race for so long, but they could have their hearts broken right at the very end. Let's take a quick look at what happened down to the second game. We didn't quite see this because we were looking at what happened at Parabolica proceeding. How did Baldwin end up in the gravel? He's on a very tight line and bounced over the curbs all wrong there. He's pushing quite hard now.
Yeah, it looked like he was thinking about a dive up to the inside, but then Dreyes shut the door on him and it left him in a very awkward angle to try and close off the second corner, and just taking that sausage curve over, upsetting the car, bouncing around, and that's how he ended up in the gravel. As we take a look now at Yoski, you can see how much closer these guys are getting to the race leaders now as they're starting to squabble again. It's allowing Nisula and Yuyovski to close that gap down to reel them in, and what could be a two-car fight for the lead right now, albeit with only 3.5 minutes of the race left. Could be a 4-car battle come the end of Yuyovski. You can see him, he's trying to take a look, and that was a little bit deep for Yumi Nisula into turn 1. Is that going to allow Yuyovski to carry the momentum through the Curva Grande as we take a little bit further to look back now as McDuff's come under the pressure from Robin Pansar into turn 1. Side by side they go, and a little bit of contact and door banging between the two, but no love lost at the moment. McDuff still holding the position at the moment, but on the outside heading up towards the Curva Grande. As we take another look back at Yuyovski, and this is what we're saying about the fighting going on. Pansar has managed to get past McDuff if you take a look at the timing screen on the left-hand side, but we're still eyes locked on the battle with Yuyovski, and there is confirmation of that then. McDuff now behind the Burst Esports car, but coming back at him, trying to find a way past him into Lesmo 1. It's non-stop action at the end of this race.
It is absolutely non-stop, and there may be 1 or 2 laps to go. It's not entirely clear just for the moment. It's going to be really close, actually, as to how many laps we have to go. Diogo Silva, big slide out of Lesmo 2 in 12th position. Here we go on board with Yuyovski. It looks like the race wind's a little bit too far away for both of these guys now, unless things really go wrong for those guys at the front. But we've seen all day his run off of Ascari has been fantastic, and we're seeing it again. But is there enough straight line speed on the Audi to make it work? Yes, there is, and Yuyovski gets into 3rd position. Nisula is demoted to 4th after a really poor start. I'm being pole position in this one. It looks like he might have salvaged a decent result, but it might not be a podium. The McLaren's got good straight line speed though. He's going to be on the outside line again. He's got a good chance of taking this position back here. There's fantastic straight line speed. The slipstream helping as well, of course. Is he going to be late enough on the brakes though? Yuyovski's got the inside line and he's going to guard that with all his might, and he does indeed. What about the run off of turn 2 though? It's not very good. And here comes Nisula. They come side by side out of turn 2 and through the Curva Grande they go. 2 GT Pro demotees from last season battling it out in GT Challenge at the front of this race. And here we go, Yuyovski on the outside line. Can he make it work to get through on Nisula finally? No, he can't. And here comes Turkka Hakkinen. Can he get involved maybe? Not quite for the moment. He's just watching and waiting, maybe hoping for a little incident in front so he can slip on by onto the podium, but not quite able to do it on this occasion. We've got 1 minute to go in this race. We've also got a lap to go. Nisula, 1 lap too many as he goes wide through Lesmo 2. This is non-stop between these two. That was the invitation that Yuyovski needed. He was definitely not going to decline it, and he goes straight through into 3rd position. Very, very smart driving indeed. Just bided his time, waited for the right moment, and he absolutely took it when indeed it came around. 3.5 seconds to the lead is a little bit too much, but it's still a 3rd place for Yuyovski, and 2 podiums on the first event for him is going to be a very, very successful one indeed, if indeed that is the way it's going to pan out. Let's see as they go through the final corner for the penultimate time. There's going to be 1 more lap in this race. Is Adam Baldwin close enough to get this lead away from Philip Dreas? Is Yuyovski far away enough from Yumi Nisula at this point to stay in front into 3rd position? I think that second one is kind of settled, but the McLaren's very good in a straight line, and we're seeing that here once again. Not quite good enough into turn 1, and he stays behind here once again. Baldwin makes a bit of a mistake and the gap goes out to 3/4 of a second. Is Philip Dreas going to hold on in his first ever GT Challenge event? He might be able to take a race win here in the main feature race as we go a little bit further back. David Coloxide trying to get through on Thomas Vack for 14th position. One of these battles a little bit further down, and we might keep mentioning about the battles up and down the field all throughout, and it looks like that's the case here once again in the second race. Is Adam Baldwin close enough? Just monitoring the gaps at the front of the field in the top left hand side of your screen, because Yuyovski looks strong enough to hold on here for me. He's got a good run out of Lesmo 2 as well, which was his last danger point. I think his run through Ascari may well just be good enough. But is Philip Dreas going to be just about good enough to hold on to this one? I think he may well be. Baldwin's closing up in every braking zone through every single corner you can imagine, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Adam Baldwin. It doesn't look like it will be. 3/4 of a second. And Philip Dreas is running away with this one. He's got a little bit more speed coming towards Parabolica as well. And he might well just hold on for this one. Yoyoski is going to do the same. He slides his way through Parabolica again on a knife's edge right towards the very end. But Philip Dreas looks like he's going to come across the line and take the second race of GT Challenge in Season 4. What a fantastic race that was. Adam Baldwin pushed him all the way. Yoyoski recovered from 9th to get up to a podium position here once again ahead of Jimi Nisila and Turga Hakkinen. What a great race that was. Adam Baldwin wasn't quite able to do it at the very end, but he gave him a very, very good run for his money.
Yes, he did. There was some tremendous battling throughout the field in this race, and it's hard to pick sort of my favourite drive out of everybody there, with Dries and Baldwin taking their fights all the way through. Here is our race winner, of course, Philip Dries, but Yoyoski's had a great fight through, of course, having to get past through all the Knight of Alex guys from P9 from that reverse top 10 start. Vakonyi did a great job defending from all of those throughout the race as well. There's been so much action, so much to unpack after that. And here is our confirmed race result then. Philip Dries taking away the race win from Adam Baldwin at the end, with Yoyoski taking his second podium of this event. He's got a win and a third place, a great haul of points for him in this first round of the championship. Jimi Nisila managed to hold on to fourth after what was a bit of a poor start in the feature race, with Turka Hakkinen, Jacob Stout and Christian Mikel in 5th, 6th and 7th. Stopowski got himself up to 8th for Mad for Mini Motorsport in the Porsche, just ahead of Zoltan Vakonyi, who did do a tremendous job defending through that race. And the top 10 rounded up by Robin Pansar in the Burst Esports McLaren. Down in 11th, Rory McDuff in the final Knight of Alex car, with Diogo Silva right up behind him. Jakubovic for Blackhawk Racing, just ahead of the other Mad for Mini Motorsport car driven by Thomas Bach in 14th. David Kalexai in 15th, just ahead of Henry Siddick, who was starting to carve his way through the field, but in a position we weren't expecting him to be in, with Remy Delorme in 17th and Jan Venneger in 18th. Rounding out the top 20, Johan Kerjan, who of course was involved in that little bit of an incident course almost by himself, in 19th, and our very own Cameron Roger down in 20th, with Yao Senshao in 22nd. Fabian Balla and I'm gonna butcher that name for One With Esports in 24th position. And then of course 4 DNFs in this race: Paul Oveslana, Daniel Kish, Nico Barkley and Dragan Nikic, all getting involved in a spot above it and not able to finish the race. And what a race it was. Action up and down the field, and I hope we get to see that every round for the next 6 rounds, because it's going to be one hell of a season if we do.
I'm sure we will. It's been a fantastic event here at Monza. I imagine Yoyoski is going to be the championship leader after all of that, but we don't know, and we won't know just for the moment. We will update you on that in 2 weeks' time, when indeed we head to Sebring for the second race of the GT Challenge Series here in Season 4. It's, as we mentioned, a fantastic couple of races. The format, I think, works really well. It's provided the entertainment in Pro and Now Challenge as well. I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this season. But for now, I guess we've got to bid you all a fond farewell. Make sure you subscribe to, or whatever you do, follow us on Twitch for the next couple of broadcasts. Are coming up next Monday. I think we've got Formula Pro coming up on Monday in 3 or 4 days' time. So make sure you tune in for that. Always entertaining. But we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the Sebring round of GT Challenge. That's on the 27th of August, with the same format we've had here tonight. It's worked very well, and there's no reason to suspect that it won't work well at Sebring either. So make sure you tune in. Look forward to your company then. But for now, I think that is it from us. Thanks very much to everybody for watching, and from me, Ewan O'Leary, and Paul Buckley alongside me, it's time to say goodbye.